improved water and sanitation. Well, what has happened is that there has been a lot of effort at the regional and global level to try to achieve those goals. But however, there still is a gap there. With over 333 million Arabs right now, 17% still lack access to basic sanitation, and almost 20%, or about 73 million people, still lack access to basic sanitation, and 17% to water, to improved drinking water. But the issue there is that the MDGs were only looking really at access to the infrastructure, which is something very promising for the water utilities and the infrastructure investors, but it didn't give a comprehensive picture of what that means actually to have access to safe drinking water and basic sanitation. And therefore, what was discussed was, at the Arab regional level, was something called the MDG Plus initiative, and you've heard a little bit about that today. And it was to develop a set of regional specific indicators to address the issue of affordability, reliability, continuity of service, and the quality of service. And so therefore, as previously mentioned by the ambassador and the League of Arab States, there was a set of regional specific indicators that were developed and a mechanism for moving forward on a way to better understand what it is to have access to water, drinking water, and access to improved sanitation in our region. And therefore, this initiative came in. What is interesting is that this initiative started in 2009, 2010 at the request of the Arab Ministerial Water Council. Preparations for the post-2015 development agenda, because the MDGs are 15 years, and now we are looking at the next 15 years, 2015 to 2030. What is interesting is the preparatory process for this new phase is hitting a lot of the points that the Arab region has already identified back in 2009 and 2011. This idea about adequate access, affordable access, the need to provide a regular and continuous supply of the resource. And that is what we are finding, is that there is a synergy between the region's work and efforts to provide goals on access to water and sanitation on the MDGs and MDG Plus, and the preparatory process for the SDGs. So what I'd like, I know our time is short, so I just wanted to highlight a little bit what is going on this post-2015 agenda, specifically as it is housed under the United Nations system. Basically, they have adopted, as of June, and it was adopted by the General Assembly just in September of this year, a set of 17 goals. It was proposed by the Open Working Group on Sustainable Development, and they have proposed 17 new Sustainable Development Goals to address the new agenda for development for the global community. Inside there is one dedicated goal on water, which is a significant difference from what happened in the MDGs. We have Goal 6, which is specifically aimed at ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. So now we are looking at more of a universality, a rights-based approach to providing access to the basic resources that you and the services that you yourself manage. We have gone beyond a proportional approach. We have also gone beyond the disparities that were considered the key cornerstone of monitoring the MDGs. Before we thought about rural-urban divides, the SDGs are talking about gender and age. So when we are talking about access to water, they make special note that the access to facilities, for example, for sanitation, be equitably provided for also women and girls. And you think about schools and hospitals and all those functions as well. This was also not there in the MDGs. So there's been an increase in the scope and breadth of how they look at the water-related accessibility to water services goals, and there has been a complexity in the way that they think of the different components. Inside this proposed delegated goal, they're looking about affordability to drinking water. They're looking about access by the year 2030 to achieve adequate access and equitable access to sanitation and hygiene. They're talking about water quality, wastewater, recycling, reuse, as was mentioned before. And there are goals associated with water use efficiency, integrated water resource management, even with reference to transboundary water resources, and the need to protect water in the context of ecosystems. What I wanted to also highlight is that people tend to focus, especially in the water community, on the water-related goal, this Goal 6 that has been proposed and will still be negotiated, but there are another 6 areas of work where the water is also being addressed on things like drought, climate change, etc. So when you look at contributing, I hope, to the discussions and negotiations on a post-2015 development agenda, don't only look at Goal 6 and as the documents, but look at the whole package on where you fit in. So just in terms of next steps that we can elaborate later on in the Q&A if you are interested, right now the Secretary General has also endorsed the use of these 17 goals, SDGs, for the basis of negotiations. Between January and June of this year, there will be negotiations on the declaration, the goals, the targets, and there's over almost 170 targets that are being negotiated that will set the stage and framework for this post-2015 agenda. And by September of 2015, this year, we will have a new global framework that will hit the issue of access for all for water, for energy, for food security, nutrition, and a host of a variety of other development goals that have been prioritized by your governments. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol, for enlightening us on the evolvement of the MDGs and moving from MDGs to SDGs, and about the targets and the indicators, and including different types of stakeholders, including women and youth. And we can talk more about this in terms of what does it mean for the utilities. What the utilities they've got to do with all this, with the indicators and with the targets, how they can integrate them into their business plans, how they can integrate them into water and wastewater master plans. It's a it's a food for thought and points of discussion as we move along. Now I move to Engineer Tawfiq Al-Habashne. Again, he's deputizing for the Minister of Water and Irrigation in Jordan, Dr. Hazem Al-Nasser. Engineer Tawfiq, I'm looking at his bio, and I didn't know that he graduated from the same university that I graduated from, University of Birmingham in England. And he has a master's degree in water resource management. And he has another degree in civil engineering. His first degree is civil engineering. And he's been in the water sector, it doesn't say here, but I assume for a long time. Engineer Tawfiq, would you please give us your thoughts about water sector in Jordan, the reform process, and what Jordan has done over the past few years to move the reform agenda?
Thank you, Engineer Raed. I'm so pleased to be with you today for the second time. What I'm going to talk about, some points related to the subject we are talking about and what we had been done in Jordan for these points. The main points I'm going to talk about, it's the first one, which is the water sector governance reform and potential improvement in utility management and operations. At this point, really, we in Jordan, we did some activity related to this. As an example, the corporatization of retail service utilities and the transition plan for transforming Water Authority of Jordan into a bulk water supply utility and have utilities assume more of retail services, and also developing the framework for utility regulating through the project management unit in Water Authority of Jordan. And we also developing a partnership with the private sectors. The second point I want to highlight for it, it's the meeting the development goals of water supplies and sanitation in the region through innovative management and partnerships. What we did in the water sector, water is supplied in Jordan. Water is supplied to more than 98% of Jordanian citizens, and more than 65% of people are connected to the wastewaters. Jordan reuse about 90% of the treated wastewater in safe approach. We have in Jordan around 27 wastewater treatment plants, and we deal with around 125 million cubic meter per year. We get from it around 110 million treated water. We use it for the agricultural use. Also, we need to look at the region and develop our standalone goals. The third point is the improved utility approaching challenge and innovative solutions. As you know, non-revenue water is still it's a problem all over the Arab countries, even in some the other countries. In Jordan, we try to because it's a big challenge for us and facing the utility. Especially for the company need to develop non-revenue water strategy and plans and implementing relevant actions. The biggest challenge is the administrative portions, and Jordan is undergoing legal reform to address this challenge. Another challenge facing the region is developing and implementing effective programs for assets management that ensure assets sustainability. Add to that, also developing water supplies are very expensive in Jordan due to variation in elevation and energy cost and long distance between demand and supplies. The main water project we just get it last year is the DISA project. We get it from 360 kilometers from the south of Amman, from the south of Jordan, all the way to Amman and to Zarqa area. Also, the big challenge, the developing water supply are add to expensive, or the energy cost and the distance. Also, the cost of operation is a little bit high. If we compare it with more than 7 times higher than what if we compare it with Egypt. Also, about $1 for the operation and maintenance costs in Jordan, and about more than $1.5 total cost for the each cubic meters. Also, the government subsidizes about 40% of the total cost. The fourth point, which is the responding to demand growth and water and sanitation services. Jordan's demands for water and sanitation services are growing at unprecedented level in the past few years due to the regional situation, as I said in the morning, especially for the Syrian refugees, how much affect the water sector and the sanitation sector in Jordan. Also, the Jordan water demand hiked up about 22%, especially like I said in the morning, 22% from our production water goes to the Syrian refugees and all over the country. But if we are talking about the northern governorate in Jordan, more than 35% from the production water goes to the Syrian refugees. Jordan is implementing emergency response program to meet these demands with support from different donors and agencies. The fifth point, which is the last one, the role of a partner in supporting regional utility addressing their challenges. For our Arab region to advance the utility management, it is essential to establish partnership among the regional utilities to exchange program and develop joint actions. Plus, it's also important to focus on research and innovation and focus on our challenge and our situations. We also need to mobilize partnership and for funding from regional and international partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Engineer Tawfiq. We're going to move on now to the private sector. and we'll talk about private sector role, particular in terms of technical innovations, in terms of management innovations, how to address the challenges. And here today we have engineer Yasin Toran from Turkey. He was working at the water utility in Istanbul. It's called Istanbul Water and Sewerage Administration from 2005 to 2008. And he started his consultancy business, working mostly on reducing of non-revenue water through trenchless technologies. And Yasin has a degree in 2004 in mechanical engineering, and he has presented and talked in several and authored several papers in different conferences. Engineer Yasin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to congratulate the organizer, Aqua, for this excellent event. I'm here to represent Turkish Society for Infrastructure and Trenches Technology. Because of our limited time, I would like to make a quick presentation to allow more time for the questions. By the way, let me convey the sincere greetings of Turkish Minister of Water Affairs, His Excellency Professor Veysel Eroğlu. And now, the content of my presentation is the first title, Structure of Water Utilities in Turkey, and second, Challenges, and then the Regulation on Water Loss Management, then Partnerships. The fifth one is Suggestions for Water Loss Management, and then Questions and Answers. So the structure of water utilities in Turkey is divided in two groups. The first and major is the Ministry of Forestry and Water Affairs. Under this ministry, there are two general directorates. The first one is State Hydraulic Works, established in 1953. And the second one is the younger one, the General Directorate of Water Management. We would be mostly focused on the second one. And the second group is the municipalities. In Turkey, there are 81 cities, including 30 metropolitan municipalities. Let me say the difference between the metropolitan municipality and a normal municipality. If the population of the city is more than 1 million inhabitants, then this city is governed by a metropolitan municipality. And in these metropolitan municipalities, there exist autonomous water bodies. For example, in my city, in Istanbul, Istanbul Water and Sewerage Administration, established in 1981, called as İSKİ, serving for more than 5.5 million subscribers with around 8,000 staff. If the city is not metropolitan municipality, then the central government and the municipalities provide the necessary water and wastewater investments for the remaining 51 cities. Now the challenges, the first challenge is the population growth. In the year 2000, the population of Istanbul was around 10 million, but in last year it became 14 million. So in 13 years, 14 million population growth. So this growth requires additional 40% water and wastewater capacity. And I would like to also highlight the rise of urbanization. I would like to compare the last year and 5 years before. In 2008, the number of subscribers are 4.7 million. And last year, it's more than 5.5 million. So